Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this very bright digital watercolor painting. We're going to start with a watercolor brush, specifically the Spread Edges Simi from the Simi JD Studio set. This has kind of a flared spread edge to it that makes it really look like a watercolor. We're going to also start with the darkest color from the Ascend palette, which is kind of an indigo purpley blue. Feel free to use whichever colors that you want, but this first color is going to be the darkest. If you don't have any watercolor brush sets, I highly recommend that you go into spray paints and select medium nozzle for this part. One thing you can do to make your digital drawings look like watercolor paintings is to insert a photo of watercolor paper texture. Fit it to your canvas and then set the top layer to multiply or linear burn. You're going to want to make this image on top of your other layers, that way it can all have the texture applied to your drawing. Next, we're going in with purple or violet. This one is really your choice, it's just going to be our second darkest color on the Ascend palette. As we go along layering our colors, they're going to be getting lighter and lighter. I am using the Ascend palette here, like I've already mentioned, but you are free to use any other palette that you want to. Now I am going in with sort of a reddish purple, and then now I'm adding kind of a hot pink on top of that. The next thing I do is select the Flourish palette and select one of their pinky purple bright colors. Our goal is to slowly cover up all of the white sections. If you want to smudge your colors some and blend them out, you can hold down the smudge button and it will select the same brush to blend with that you were painting with. Or you can pick another one, but our point in smudging is to really just blend out these hard edges so they look a little bit more natural and a little bit more like a watercolor painting would if you were blending them out with water. I personally like to blend enough so that there are no hard edges in between each of my colors, so that there's kind of a gradual gradient transition between each color. Now you're going to add a second layer. Select a light blue color and add that on top. I also go in on that second layer and choose a turquoisey color from Ascend. I also adjust the opacity of that layer and select Darken for it so that it blends in a little bit more. Next, we're going to be smudging using Ghosting Stroke, Wet 1 from the Wet JD Studio set. If you do not have that brush, I recommend going into airbrushing, select Soft Brush, and turn the opacity down to about 45%. After I finish smudging a little bit more of that second layer out, I go in and I play with the different layer options, the overlay options, dark mode, whatever, and the opacity until I find something that I personally like. If you like to use add instead of overlay, go ahead. It's up to you. If you like it, then go for it. I ended up setting it to soft light. Now we're moving on to the foreground. This is going to be the black silhouette part. I ended up covering this whole ground area with black using our first brush, and then I ended up switching brushes to the Painted Base brush by Libro for the detail work. There's honestly not a super great alternative for this brush, so the next best thing that I can suggest that you try is using kind of like a spray paint for that foreground area, and then for the details going into Artistic and selecting Old Beach. You really want something that is a brush that has kind of a tapered edge whenever you are getting up to the high points of the tree line. When you're working on the tree line, you're going to want to make different vertical brushstroke marks going from the bottom where the ground is up towards the sky. These can be as tall as you want or as short as you want. The shorter they are, the further away they're going to look. For our branches, we're just going to make these little squiggly lines using a slightly smaller version of our current brush, and those are just going to kind of go every which way. You don't really have to think too much about them, just make sure that they're not touching the entire bottom of the tree because that's not going to look super natural. But they can overlap onto other branches and other trees, and that will look perfectly fine and normal. Also, I hope that y'all trust that I'm trying to find good dupes for you. I know that not everyone wants to or can afford to buy whole brush packs for Procreate, so I'm trying to find a lot of similar brushes that are already on Procreate and come with the app. As shown, I have this ugly little swatch sheet that I've been working on to make sure that you have dupes that are already on Procreate that are good to use and will have a similar effect. And I will be linking all of the brush packs that I use below. I'm not sponsored by any of them, I just personally use them, and if you're interested in using them too, you definitely can go look those up and support the creators of those. Now we've been drawing a bunch of branches for a while. You got the big ones down, now you're going to size down your brush even more and create these teeny tiny ones going every which way that's going to kind of branch up into the sky and off into the distance. In real life, branches get teeny tiny, and that's the choice that we're making to kind of replicate those. We're not going to go to the absolute smallest because at that point we're going to be working with pixels and that's not going to look good, but you do want to be sizing down your brush as you work. Forests are usually pretty dense, so as you're working, if you see that there are kind of odd gaps in between your trees, you can also take a smaller version of your brush and go in between those to kind of emulate further away trees that are behind some of these forefront ones. I think it adds a lot of depth and it just looks kind of cool. It looks like you know what you're doing within perspective, even if you don't, because I definitely don't. The next thing that you're going to do once you have your base trees done is add leaves. I like to do this just to make sure that they don't look like it's the middle of winter, but you can leave them off if you want to. I'm using the brush Broken Paint Stroke Leaves by Madeline Belwar, but if you don't have that brush, you can go into spray paints and select either Flicks or Splatter, or you could go into Organic and select Snow Gum, or use a combination of all three. Once you're done adding your leaves, you're going to want to add another layer, and we're going to start adding in stars. We're going to be using Driven Snow from the Elements section. This is already on Procreate. You're going to want to select a white or light color and start going in and playing with different sizing for these stars. Some are going to want to be bigger, some are going to want to be a little bit smaller, so go ahead and play around with changing the size a couple of different times while you're using this. Place your layer for stars underneath your black silhouette, duplicate that layer, and then set the first layer of your stars to overlay, and then use Gaussian blur a little bit to give it some of a starry shine. Now that you've adjusted things for your base layer of stars, your little first layer of stars, you're going to want to select your second layer of stars and set that to add. This is going to make the white a lot more punchy than before. Here I also decided to duplicate the paper texture, that way it was a little bit darker and a little bit more textured. I was also playing around with duplicating the silhouette drawing, but I ended up not really liking that. After those last little adjustments, you are done with your painting. If there's anything else that you want to add or change, you can go ahead and do that. If there's other colors you want to add, make sure that you do that, because this is your own drawing or painting and you can do really whatever you want to with it. But that is all that I have to say about this. If you want to watch the quick little speed paint here and then see the final product, feel free to, but other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Please leave a comment letting me know if there's any other tutorials you would like to see, and I will see you next time. Bye!